Spirit leads us. But so here is Kwanzaa in my best Swahili. Happy Kwanzaa, everyone. And I don't know, we're always excited to be here. And this is actually our second annual Kwanzaa celebration via live stream. We are usually in the Murdoch Community Center doing this live, but we're being conscious and aware and taking extra precautions and keeping the community safe and healthy and happy. And so that's why we decided that again we would come and celebrate Kwanzaa live stream. So welcome community, our resident facilitator, Sister Kara House. How are you? Hiriza Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa Kwanzaa. Happy Kwanzaa. I am so
Happy
excited.
Kwanzaa. I'm excited too, and I'm very excited that you're going to um, help us open up. This is day one of Kwanzaa, and I don't want to give it all away. I'll just say day one, and every day we'll be celebrating something, a principle, something that we're grateful for. Um, it is this time of the year that um, a lot of the harvest in Kibulan or Africa, the mother country, has been brought in, and so there is no coincidence that Kwanzaa falls at this time of the year. But that's why you're here to help enlighten, like I like to say, enlighten, educate, and inform us of why we're here, what Kwanzaa means. And it's going to be an exciting next 7 days to be able to come on and celebrate community. So, with that being said, take it away.
All right. Well, I am, like I said, so excited to be joining with our community in celebrating Kwanzaa this year. And I want to start us off by talking about what is Kwanzaa? Where does it come from? What's its history? And why is it so important, especially now? So Kwanzaa is a celebration of the history, the values, the familial legacies, and above all, community within the culture of the African diaspora. That is the native peoples of Africa who are dispersed and distributed both willingly and forcefully throughout the world. The name Kwanzaa comes from the Swahili phrase Matunda ya Kwanza, which translates to first fruits. And it draws on a cultural heritage of African first fruit celebrations. It was brought to the United States and created by its founder, Dr. Maulana Karenga, in 1966. And he used it as an opportunity, as he put it, for Black people to celebrate themselves and their history rather than simply imitating the practice of the dominant society. The celebration began making its way into mainstream Black cultural recognition between 1979 and the 1980s, really taking root in 1988, and then taking a firm hold as a widespread celebration in the late 1990s. It's really interesting to me to note, and a little bit of a bittersweet recognition, that when it was first recognized by a United States president, formally marking the holiday, it was President Bill Clinton in 1997. And he stated that as America embarks on a season of renewal and reconciliation, the principles of Kwanzaa ring true not only for African Americans, but also for all Americans. And it's a somewhat ironic and powerful statement that he made at the time, considering that we are now almost 30 years from that initial statement. where he was talking about a season of renewal and reconciliation, which is very much the time that we find ourselves in now. It's also a beautiful statement that acknowledges what we of the African diaspora have long held, that the story of Black America is the story of America, that our history is American history. But it's also a statement that runs somewhat parallel to Karenga's initial call for a celebration of a unique culture that could not be co-opted by the dominant culture. Nevertheless, Kwanzaa is a gift to a broader community. It's a cultural celebration for people of the African diaspora and a reminder for all of us to celebrate our cultural heritage with pride, as well as an invitation to those outside of our immediate cultural community to likewise celebrate a rich culture that reminds us, as we so often have to say these days, that Black lives matter. In an annual founder's message for Kwanzaa that Dr. Karenga shared last year, he reflected that Kwanzaa is a special and unique time and Pan-African space to recommit ourselves to our highest values that teach us to live our lives, do our work, and wage our struggles in dignity-affirming, life-enhancing, and world-preserving ways as we continue forward on the upward paths of our honored ancestors. And I was stricken by this statement, particularly in these years where we're living through the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as social, cultural, political, and national reckoning with America's racial history. At this time, we've been called to even more deeply cling to community bonds while recognizing that gathering together looks very, very different these days. We've been called to continue to resist and build resiliency relentlessly as survivors of and thrivers through enslavement, colonialism, imperialism, segregation, systemic oppression, mass incarceration, disparities in equitable access and denials of justice, and so much more. Just as the story of the African in America is the story of America, we are reminded during Kwanzaa that the call to celebrate our culture and strengthen the bonds of our community is equally a call to ensure the well-being of the entire world. Kwanzaa is really a reminder to embrace one of my favorite principles pulled from the African diaspora, which is that of Sankofa, which is a call to reach back and bring forward the things we need to carry us through our current struggles. We're called to remember and reflect on our role models and community leaders, those who have gone before and paved the road we now follow toward beautiful community, many of whom sit with us tonight, watching or facilitating or scheduling or speaking during these Live Black Experience community dialogues. I have to take a moment to acknowledge the people who make these sessions possible, from Dr. Coral Evans, former mayor of Flagstaff, Reverend Bernadine Lewis, who facilitates these sessions, Ms. Deb Harris, who oversees the Murdoch Community Center, Dr. Ricardo Guthrie, who has so often joined in on these sessions, and so many more people who have been part of bringing these conversations forward and leading our Black community in Northern Arizona to be a voice for the Live Black experience, both here, locally, across our state, nationally, and now to an audience that takes us even abroad. Kwanzaa is celebrated through the practice of the Nguzo Saba, or 7 principles. Every day of the Kwanzaa celebration begins with the call Harabi Gani, which means what is the news, and is followed by answering with the principle of the day. The first principle is Umoja, which means unity, and celebrates the oneness we of the African diaspora can feel and express in our Blackness and our Africanness wherever we are in the world. It reminds us that we are united in community, as family, and in our commitment to the well-being of the world. The second principle is Kujichagulia, which means self-determination. We celebrate this through our rejection of systems of oppression and our acceptance of who we are as individuals and collectively as a free Black people and a free Black community. The third principle is Ujima, which means collective work and responsibility. This is our call to build beautiful community together, to share in the work of creating a better world and leaving that world as our legacy to future generations. The fourth principle, Ujama, represents cooperative economics. We have had unique reckonings in the past several years with the history of economic disparities and prejudices that have hindered the development and sustainment of Black communities. And in this principle, we recognize and celebrate the values of shared work, shared wealth, and equitable opportunities to thrive in a society built on collective, not capitalistic advancement. The fifth principle is Nia, which means purpose. Purpose has been a particularly impactful principle for me over the past couple of years. And I think for many of us, as we're grappling both individually, communally, and nationally with the questions of what am I meant for? Who and what am I supposed to be? And what am I supposed to be doing with this short period of life that I have? This principle suggests and reminds us that we all have purpose, and that only in collectively embracing and engaging our purposes can we build better communities and a better world that we all long for. The sixth principle, Kuumba, is creativity. It's a call to recognize that all that we touch as Black people becomes more beautiful. And it's a call for us to take what we are given and to make it new. As a Black community, we have a beautiful history of reshaping what was designed to destroy us and reclaim it for good. Kuumba is a call to heal, to revive, to restore, and to recreate ourselves and our world. The seventh and the final principle of Kwanzaa is Imani, which means faith. In Kwanzaa celebrations, it represents belief and the call to keep the faith in pursuit of justice and unity. As a person of faith, I think of the scripture's definition of faith as confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. I think it's that same faith through which our ancestors sang that deep in my heart, I still believe we shall overcome someday. Today is the first day of Kwanzaa, and so we focus on the principle of Umoja, or unity. This principle calls for us, all of us, but particularly those of us of the African diaspora, to strive for and to maintain unity in our families, in our communities, in our nation, and as African people wherever we are now in the world. I don't think it's an accident that the first reminder that we receive during Kwanzaa is the reminder of collective, of community, that all of us who are in the struggle of life are in it together, and we need each other to survive. As the Live Black Experience Community Coalition, the group that came together to deliver the broader community of Flagstaff, Arizona, with a historic community strategic plan in 2020, I hope that it hasn't gone without notice that whenever we write out community, we do it with a capitalized U, an emphasis of the fact that we cannot have community without unity. We've seen throughout history that the collective voice of Africans born in America and all of those who are part of the African diaspora have had a powerful impact in shaping the world in which we live. With unity, we're able to shape our world. We change that which has been designed to divide us into tools of creative collective progress. We celebrate the places of unity in our community, including community centers like the historic Murdoch Community Center, which serves as both the heart of the Black community in Flagstaff, the community heart of the Southside neighborhood and community, and the seat of the unifying message we hope to share through the Live Black Experience Community Dialogue Series and other works of the Live Black Experience Community Coalition. Unity reminds us that the greatness of the African community throughout the world, the African diaspora in America and abroad, the greatness of Blackness comes from our collective connection, the unity we find in community and celebrate when we see and celebrate each other, and how we each speak into that collective advancement of the communities in which we live. I think particularly of unity in the time of COVID-19, when a pandemic drove us into our homes, week-long quarantines, and for many of us, months and now going on years of relative isolation from the communities we cherish. It is painful to be apart, and yet I find and hope others find joy in recognizing the creative opportunities we found to still come together to create positive change, to have celebrations like this, and recognizing that we might be socially distant, but we are still spiritually united in our calls for social change and community development. I want to take a moment to semi selfishly reflect on the beauty and unity of family within the Black community. Because today, for my family, was and is beyond the day after Christmas, also my mother's birthday. And I think of the family traditions we still carry on in her honor. We always share some form of strawberry shortcake or dessert, a tradition which for a time made its way across three states, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and California, uniting my family despite geographical distances. It's for me an annual reminder that I think that of any of the gifts my mom desired for her birthday, the greatest was always togetherness. I think now of just how significant and sustaining familial bonds are, whether they're born or chosen. The mothers and aunties and brothers and beyond that I celebrate today and every day through the bonds of the Live Black experience. The mother wit and collective wisdom I've gained and treasured up more than any material wealth these past few years. And the gratitude I feel for my born and beyond families here in Arizona, across the country, over the oceans, and now beyond the veil. Today, we also mix the bitter with the sweet as we remember and mourn the passing of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the South African anti apartheid leader, a voice for justice and a champion of unity. Archbishop Tutu lived out the principle of Umoja, reminding us that God's dream is that you and I and all of us will realize that we are family, that we are made for togetherness, for goodness, and for compassion. His unifying voice provided powerful mentorship, inspiration, and guidance to the world. His generosity of spirit and kindness in pursuit of unity, justice, and hope remind us all of the importance of striving to maintain unity in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and in the world. As Dr. Karenga wrote last year, Umoja urges a moral sensitivity and caring kinship with each other human beings, all living beings, and with the world itself. I think of the African proverb that reminds us a single stick may smoke, but it will not burn. We need each other to collectively kindle the fires of change. I hope that tonight, as we light the first candle of the Kinara, we carry forward that call for Umoja, for unity, as the light that brings together all the principles in this celebration, and as a reminder that alone we're only sticks, but together we can be an unstoppable fire. That's all I have for us tonight. So I'll turn it back over to Miss Bernadine, and we'll have a conversation as we work towards lighting our first candle.
Well, today is another day of worship, being that it's Sunday. Um, and I feel like you've given us a very spiritual message. And so as you were speaking, I was just like, Amen, Amen, Amun, Amen, Amen. Um, you know, we find community in so many different places. I wonder if we are aware of that.
Mhm.
We find community in our workspaces. Um, there's community um, in so many different areas of our lives. And I'm wondering, Sister Kara, which, by the way, you gave everyone their props of who's involved with this project, but I just want to remind everyone that you are our resident facilitator. So you are a big part of what we are doing when we come on these live streams. And so I'm wondering if you could, speak to us and maybe get a little personal. Where do you find community?
Yeah, for me, and I've talked about this a lot with different friends here in Flagstaff and family back east. My family is mostly back in Pennsylvania. And so I lean very heavily on the relationships that I have with the Live Black Experience group, with the Coconino County African Diaspora Advisory Council, with every group that I am part of. I find an aspect of family and community. Um, for me, it is. I keep going back to earlier this year, we had a session that talked about motherwit. And I remember talking about how I had not heard that phrase before. I knew what it was as the conversation was happening and as folks were talking about and sharing the motherwit that they had grown up with, but I had literally never heard that phrase. And now over this past year, I have not stopped hearing it. And I just think about how much it has meant to me to get personal with it, to have the group of strong Black women that's here in Flagstaff. Um, in time when I have been away from my immediate family for now what feels like a very long time. Um, and finding different ways to define, what family is and who is family has meant so much to me with that motherwit in this community of yourself and now Dr. Evans, former Mayor Coral Evans, and Miss Deb, and all of the different people. Sister Amber Jones, who is um, part of this group and other groups that I'm part of. And the constantly growing group of women that represents and men now through folks like Dr. Guthrie and Warren Brown, who worked with us in the community dialogues that developed the Live Black Experience strategic plan. Jermaine Barkley, who is one of the facilitators for these sessions and part of the Live Black Experience Community Coalition. And I mean, if I went on naming people, I'd be naming them all night. So if I have not named someone specifically, it does not mean that they have not been an invaluable part of my life over the past 2 years. I was just talking with someone about, being in this time of COVID. I've been home, literally in this space of my home for going on 2 years. It's just the most bizarre thing to realize that outside of some of the community group meetings and occasionally going into the office or different things like that, this has been my space. Um, and so these moments of being able to reach out and connect with community means so much to folks that are living through this. And I think of what this must mean to other people within the community who are experiencing the same thing, who may have been home for as long, if not even longer, or who maybe just don't often have ways of reaching out into their community, who have found ways to become part of it through this project. So it's definitely very, very meaningful this year.
I totally agree with you. And in the African tradition, we always show respect and we acknowledge our elders. And so you mentioned a very special person, Ms. Deb Harris, who I often like to refer to as our chiefess. She is the chiefess of our tribe, of our community. And when you were speaking of community, Sister Kara, um, it always takes me back to Um, when I first got here, the first two people that looked like us that I met were uh, Dr. and well, Dr. Brother Ricardo Guthrie and Professor Sister Sean Thomas, and they immediately, the first thing they said was, "We have to take you. You have to meet Deb Harris." And in that same day, they ushered me over to the student union on campus and introduced me um, that I refer to as Chiefess Miss Deb. And that was the beginning of me finding community here um, in Flagstaff. And then I would meet Dr. Brother Martin Tees. And he would introduce me. He kept saying for like a year and a half, "I've got to connect you with Coral Evans." And so, and then it just grew. And I'm thinking about when and how I first met you, and how that the Murdoch Community Center really is our place of gathering, our sacred space. And it is, although we are not sitting in that physical space right now of the Murdoch Community Center, but the fact that this project, the Lived Black Experience Project, is a part of the Murdoch Community Center. So community, um, I think, is so very sacred because it's the space where we connect. It's the space where we come together and share sometimes very deep and personal things about ourselves, that we discover more about ourselves, different aspects of ourselves, and all of that is sacred because when we talk about becoming, becoming, we could not become if we were not somehow connected to something, and the something being community. What do you say to that?
I think that's beautiful. I think over the past couple of years, um, especially with everything happening with COVID and with everything that's happened with the social justice movements and Black Lives Matter and all of those movements that we've made, um, it's really stood out to me how for us, for a group like the Live Black Experience project and other groups that are working towards those kind of collective voices of community, we're focusing on. We said so many times the story of Black America is the story of America. The story of Black Flagstaff is the story of Flagstaff, and just emphasizing that what we're doing is not just for the Black community, but it's for all of our community. It's to make beautiful community for everyone. And I just find it so interesting that as we have those conversations, the number one pushback that seems to come out of it is always, well, why does it have to be Black Lives Matter? Why can't you say all lives matter? Why does it have to be a strategic plan for the Black community? Why can't it be a strategic plan for the whole community? And just going on from there, or even taking it to, this group has a plan, but this group doesn't. So you've taken away from somebody else. And uh, it just strikes me that all of the work that we do for unity, the distraction and what I hope people recognize as a diversionary tactic from what we are really trying to do is to try and claim that unity is division. that what we're doing for the sake of community is only for a select few members of that community, without recognizing that we as a people have never done anything only for ourselves. We have a very unique culture and a very unique cultural community. But when we called for civil rights in the 1950s and 60s, it was not only for Black people. And in fact, it was very specifically for the betterment of the entire country that we had that fight. When we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion now, we're not saying just give Black people all the jobs. What we're saying is your workplaces or your communities are so much more beautiful and brilliant and collectively better when they are more diverse, and when you recognize the differences that exist within it, but still make us stronger when we actually recognize them. So, talking about community now and talking about the call for unity now is just another moment that I think is an opportunity for our community and the broader community, to learn from that African tradition, in recognizing that we're stronger together, that we are, not just a voice for ourselves, but we're a voice for the world. That when we can embrace those sorts of principles, we're making the entire world better for everyone, and leaving that as a legacy that goes beyond ourselves as individuals or even as a culture.
So beautifully said. Um, and this is what Kwanzaa is all about. This is Umoja. And so I'm so excited for, I'm grateful for this moment today, for day one of our Kwanzaa celebration. Can you tell us what day will, what principle will we acknowledge tomorrow, and invite everyone to come back?
Yes, so tomorrow we will be celebrating the principle of Kujija Gulia. I always struggle to say that one, but I got it. And it means self determination. And for that, we will have one of our beloved sisters joining us, another person who has spoken so meaningfully to our community over the past 2 years, Dr. Tria Allen.
Yes. So excited for tomorrow. I'm excited for the rest of the week. To our guests this evening, thank you so much for joining us. And we wish that you will tell at least one friend, and maybe they will tell a friend, and we can come together tomorrow and celebrate together, because again, Sister Kara has said it a few times this evening, but I'd like to remind us as we close. We're not ending the celebration. We'll just close this part, but Kwanzaa was created to acknowledge um, and celebrate African American heritage. So, what life for people of African descent has been and is here in America. And it incorporates principles from the African culture. And so, if we truly are a community, then that means that we all should be able to come together and celebrate and acknowledge the lives of a people that have greatly contributed to what life in America is. And so, therefore, Kwanzaa is a celebration for everyone, and we are welcoming and inviting all of our community, wherever you are. And when we come together in this manner, It is community. We're all together to celebrate. So please spread the word that we're here. We're celebrating Kwanzaa. And we're always excited if it's your first Kwanzaa. Come back and let us know, make comments, ask questions. And because this is what community really is all about. This is what the Lived Black Experience project is all about. It is to educate, enlighten, and inform everyone, regardless of your race or ethnicity, creed, religion. We want everyone and welcome everyone to come and be a part of this journey. And so, with that being said, this is Umoja, the first evening of Kwanzaa, and we light the candle on the Kinara. Blessed be this moment. Blessed is everyone that is gathered with us this evening. Blessed be all that will come for the next 6 days to celebrate with us. And with that being said, go in grace.